Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to News Nation. This is where right and left come to try to be reasonable. And this shooting that the authorities just put down at Emory University in Georgia, which is also where there is a CDC headquarters, is more proof of the extremism that is overtaking our culture. Okay? And that's what it is. I'm telling you, this is how it's going to turn out with this guy. A man shows up, CNN, others are reporting that he believed he was vaccine injured, whatever. I'm not justifying his response, obviously. I'm doing the opposite. But that's why he went where he went. And the shooter is dead. We don't know if he was taken out by an officer or he took himself out. A police officer was injured seriously. We don't know what's going to happen with them. No students were hit. The building, the CDC, supposedly caught some fire, but the police didn't want to comment on the motivation just yet. They were just dealing with their own reality, which is they can't stop these things. They can respond very quickly. They can know how to deal with it and get better protocols to be more aggressive and figure it out. But this is going to keep happening until what? I don't know. But this is going to keep happening because we're getting more and more extreme. So we want to talk about what this is going to mean for us. I want to bring in Jennifer Coffindaffer, and I want to talk to her about how they understand this investigation and if it's more than just familiarity. And I want a doctor to come on to talk about this suspected motive because vaccine injury is a real thing. Long COVID is a real thing. So, Coffindaffer, thank you very much for joining me on short notice like this. How does this size up to you based on what you heard and what you see?
Well, you know, Chris, we just have another situation, and you kind of touched on this. I mean, any excuse these individuals come up with to shoot other people and commit homicide, it's just one extreme view after another, and it's playing out in homicidal action and mass murders across the country. Look at how many we've had in the past 2 weeks, Chris.
And are you, what does it mean to you that you and I were raised with a threat of mass shootings and people who wanted to disrupt us in extremism from abroad? Now it seems to be almost exclusively homegrown.
Yeah, that is so accurate, Chris. When you look at this and consider the fact that all these individuals are homegrown, they're the person next door, they're the person that you see at the grocery store. There's no way to identify them because they blend in and they commit these acts. They're so heinous, Chris, and there's no way to identify them from a law enforcement perspective. And I think that's what's the most concerning. There's no way to thwart the threat.
Well, because the old way of doing it was affiliation. I have become a jihadi. I've become radicalized. I believe the West is the enemy, or I'm a neo-nationalist or a neo-Nazi, and you're going to see that. That's not what it is anymore. It's somebody who is watching what's happening in society, having their own lived experience, and believing that violence is almost an acceptable form of political expression. I mean, look at Mangione, look at the guy at the Israeli embassy. They wait around this guy here in the most recent mass shooter. They wait for authorities to come. Mangione ran, but you know, we all saw his demeanor when he was captured. There is a confidence to these people that they're somehow righteous.
Well, and I think it's even beyond confidence. It's that they don't care anymore. They don't care about living, and they don't care about what they do to others, Chris. Really, nothing is in their view except for committing these crimes. And that's really problematic when they don't care. They don't care if they're taken alive, and they don't care who they kill.
So what are we supposed to do? In terms of best practices, what do? You work on your response time. You work on your tactics, technique, and preparation to deal with active shooters. But like, what can we be doing that we're not doing from a law enforcement perspective?
I think the main thing we need to do is a better scrub of social media. You know, in most of these situations, there have been media posts and connectivity regarding their extremist views, regarding what they plan to do. And I think we need to get AI involved in an extreme measure in law enforcement, in the FBI, look and scrub these accounts.
People are worried about Big Brother as it is. You ever see that weird Tom Cruise montage? Now, the reason I'm making this kind of digression is that this guy is dead. Nobody else was hit. No students were hurt. An officer was injured, but they're already being cared for. Their status hasn't changed. There are no victims or dead people to talk about and memorialize. So, you know, Tom Cruise did this movie where they were able to stop people before they committed crimes that they were going to commit in the future. And it seemed crazy at the time, but more and more we hear people discussing using AI and studying social media to pick up threats before maybe even the threat has fully formed. Doesn't that sound like a really slippery slope and maybe better left to the movies?
I don't know, Chris. I just think that that's where law enforcement is going to have to go. I remember when we first started using facial recognition, and, you know, there were a lot of people very concerned about that, obviously wiretapping phones and FISAs, and it's what we have to do to stop crime. That's where I think we're going to have to head.
Jennifer Coffindaffer, I appreciate you helping provide some depth to a painfully shallow situation, which is just the next one until the one after this one, when we'll talk again, because we both know this isn't going to end anytime soon. Thank you very much for being with me, Jennifer Coffindaffer. Have a good weekend. I want to bring in Dr. Cedric James Rutland. Why? Why am I bringing a doctor in? Because vaccine injury is a real thing. Nobody ever talks about it. Long COVID is a real thing. We got tired of talking about it. It hasn't gone away. COVID hasn't gone away. And I will not be shocked if this reporting holds up, that this guy was sick, felt uncared for, felt that nobody gave a damn, and then he decided to do something that is completely beyond explanation in terms of justification. But I wanted to bring the doctor in, an expert in SARS-CoV-2 and what they call the sequelae, Latin word for what follows, which is this whole new school of illness, of long COVID and vaccine injuries. Doc, thank you for joining me on short notice. We do not know if that's what this turns out to be, okay? There is reporting to that effect. Obviously, he went to the CDC on purpose, not just to Emory, but to the CDC. But it gives us an opportunity. Vaccine injuries, real thing or not?
Yeah, vaccine injuries can definitely happen. But I think when you look at vaccine injuries, you have to ask yourself, what's the mechanism of the injury? And when you look at how vaccines actually work, they actually induce an inflammatory response. And when you induce an inflammatory response, a lot of different things can happen, but they're not a common thing. And being a pulmonary critical care physician, as someone who sees patients in the intensive care unit in my pulmonary clinic, if vaccine injuries were significantly happening, this is something that I would see every day in my clinic, and I don't. But I do see some injuries for sure.
It's hidden. They faked the numbers. The vaccine killed more people than it saved. It made more people sick than it didn't. Kids never needed to take it. That is the universe of discussion that has people so enraged about this particular mRNA vaccine that came through Operation Warp Speed during the Trump administration. What do you make of those kinds of feelings?
All right, so listen, I'm a pulmonary critical care physician, meaning I run the intensive care unit. So I'm seeing patients during the pandemic. I'm in the ICU 16 nights a month. I'm seeing patients come into the hospital dying of SARS-CoV-2 disease. I have never, and I'm going to repeat this, I have never seen a patient come to the ICU that just got the vaccine that died of the vaccine-related illness. I've never seen that. It hasn't happened, not in my clinical practice. This isn't anything that I'm hiding. So from my perspective and my experience as someone who sees the condition and someone who also treats long COVID, which can happen, and I have not seen the vaccine specifically, only vaccine injury kill anyone. But I have seen SARS-CoV-2, especially wild type SARS-CoV-2, the first virus that came out, kill hundreds of people. And it was a very sad situation. But I do understand individuals asking questions. And I am armed to be able to answer those questions. That's my training. That's what I do.
Well, Doctor, I appreciate you for what you're doing, especially when it comes to long COVID. You know, I'm a JV player on that team. I'm very fortunate when it comes to long COVID. I just have what you were talking about early. I have an enhanced inflammatory response. I have histamine response. So it's just like more allergic than I was before I had that first bout of COVID. But I'm one of the lucky ones all day long, no question about it. Thank you for the work you're doing. Anytime there is a need for conversation about where we are with long COVID, what's working, what isn't, what needs to be addressed, you got a friend in me, okay?
I'm right here. Thank you.
All right, God bless and thank you for the work you're doing. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Now, a lot of you will say, that guy's FOS. This is what he does for a living. He does not work for the government. He is not shilling for Pfizer. You didn't see that on his name. I don't understand why, if you're going to take anecdotes as facts, his don't count. Now, speaking of anecdotes as facts, the Middle East is one of the worst reported situations of conflict I've been around in my 25 plus years. I blame Benjamin Netanyahu for that, for the decision to not let media in. It was a mistake, and I've been too quiet about it, to be honest. We all have. Now, that is one piece of the latest problem in the Middle East. There is news, and Israel is going to make an aggressive move, and people are going crazy about it. But we got to take a look at what's really happening here, and I have it for you. Next. People are going to be pissed. That's okay. There's news in the Middle East, and it's enraging people, some people, back here at home. Israel announced a plan to end the war by invading the final Hamas stronghold, heavily populated Gaza City. People, mostly on the political left in America, hate this idea. Senator Warren wrote, "Starving Palestinian children and killing innocent people isn't enough for Netanyahu. Now he wants to control all of Gaza." Echoing what she and other members of the left say about Israel, that they are committing a genocide. Now look, I get the concerns and the criticism of Netanyahu, but here's my beef. I suspect these people are playing politics and picking a side which is the opposite of having a good faith interest in human suffering. Now, that's a big swipe. What's the proof? Well, first, they keep hammering Israel for wanting to kill as many people as they can. They'll even outright call it genocide, most of them. When the only clear case of pure intention and acting on the intention of killing as many as you could in the allotted time of a specific type was seen on October 7th. And it was perpetrated by Hamas and celebrated there and in some quarters here. Next, the mere fact that Israel has announced this far in advance a plan to go to Gaza City proves that they are not genocidal in their aims. Because if you want to kill as many as you can, you don't warn. You don't take a month to actively try to move people out of the area you want to enter. And my question is, if I'm wrong, show me a campaign of recognized genocide that was ever conducted this way, providing warning, telling people where you're going to strike, and trying to move them out. Show me that. Then, my bigger point. If you do not want Israel to invade, okay, and I understand that, and you want the war to end, which I assume you do, what is the obvious catalyst for peace? What is the obvious first step in this conflict? What would end this fastest? Israel saying, okay, we won't defend ourselves anymore. Israel saying, okay, the terror organization that is sworn to our destruction, we'll just leave it alone. We've done enough. Does that really make sense to you? Does that sound like the logical first step? Or is Hamas, the people who started it, surrendering? Is that not the logical first step? If Hamas surrenders and returns the hostages, there is no need, there is no right, there is no benefit to Israel invading Gaza City. Why doesn't Senator Warren make that point in her statement? Why don't any of them pound on Hamas to surrender to end this? Do these people really think Israel is more of a problem than Hamas, a terror organization? Do they really believe Hamas staying in power is the best situation for the same people whom they say they care about, who are actively oppressed by Hamas now and were certainly oppressed before October 7th? Again, I get the criticisms of Netanyahu, okay, for this and a lot of other aggressive moves during the conflict. But to that point, Netanyahu wanted to do a lot more than Gaza City. He wanted to do a full occupation, which is what Senator Warren, in her statement, seems to suggest to you is what Israel's plan is, and that's not true. That's what he wanted. But the reporting is that Israel's war cabinet met last night, and they only approved Gaza City. So they hemmed Netanyahu in. Why doesn't she say that? That's my next point. It is intellectually dishonest to think this can only make the situation worse. Clearly, Israel wants to limit the occupation, okay? Which is the opposite instinct of genocide, for what it's worth. But again, show me when someone mounting a campaign of genocide limited command and control over the enemy by choice. Now, the left argues this is a forced evacuation and therefore a war crime, just like they did last year. But let's look at what happened last year. Do you remember when Israel made the same play on Rafah, R-A-F-A-H? Look it up. Remember, then President Biden said, if Israel invades Rafah, it's a red line, and we're going to stop sending weapons to Israel. Then what happened? He backed down. Why? Because he was Israel's puppet. He's AIPAC. No, think. Because Hamas refused to surrender. They refused to return the hostages. And Israel did what it said it was going to do, which is took time to encourage people, took time to facilitate their evacuation from the area. And they targeted Hamas heads, okay? That's how they got Sinwar. Now, did the move end the war in Rafah? Of course not. But it certainly wasn't a campaign of genocide. And that's not my opinion. You know whose opinion it is? The person who was president of the United States. This is what Biden said. There is now the opportunity for a day after in Gaza without Hamas in power and for a political settlement that provides a better future for Israelis and Palestinians alike. You see him accusing them of genocide? And they did what they said they were going to do, which they now want to do again. If Hamas doesn't surrender, what other option do they have that makes sense from the Israeli perspective? Do you think we would stop defending ourselves from a terror organization because they refuse to surrender? It's important to note that the move by Israel also puts their own people at risk, and not just the soldiers who have to do the operations, but the hostages. Remember, 6 hostages, including Hirsch Poland, Hirsch Goldberg Poland, who we talked about a lot on this show, and to his parents multiple times, in Israel and here at home, were executed by Hamas as troops approached their location during the Rafah invasion. I've said many times, and I will say again now, not allowing the media to cover the conflict from the conflict zone is a mistake. We will never know the full truth of what's happening there this way. Now, the rebuttal to that is, yeah, well, Israel's stopping it because they want to control the narrative. How's that working out? The perception of what's happening in Gaza couldn't be any worse for Israel. And I got to say, and I don't mean it as a joke, I never want to hear that the Jews control the American media again. I don't. Because unless all Jews are anti-Zionist, which I never knew, the media couldn't be more stilted against Israel, and increasingly so. So I don't know how they control the media. From all that I can gather, having us on the ground could not make things any worse for Israel or for people who want a real understanding of the situation. I think America should not condition aid on what Israel does to go after Hamas, but they should condition aid on whether or not we get access and on how much aid is on the ground, no matter whether Hamas takes it or not. Flood the zone with aid. Whatever happens, happens. Let us cover it in real time. because the false narratives and fake news are out of control. And this conflict ain't ending anytime soon. So, what is this going to look like? How should we feel about it? Let's bring in two people who do nothing but study this, okay? One is someone I rely on very heavily, Executive Director of the Urban War Institute, John Spencer, and Palestinian-American activist and writer, Ahmed Alkhatib. Did I say it right, Ahmed?
You did, yes.
Good, thank you. Because I have a funny name also, so like we got to always get our phonics right for each other. You know what I mean? That's how we raise our ethnic stakes. All right, so John, I want first of all thank you both, and let's have a free and fair exchange. John, what do you make of this idea to go into Gaza City? What is the plus minus?
So, like we talked about just a couple of days ago, I think it's long overdue. As you beautifully said, give me an alternative that even gets the hostages back, let alone gets to what everybody, and you're talking even Qatar, which is pretty interesting, says absolutely Hamas should lay down their arms and give up power, give up the hostages. Okay, but what's the plan? So I will correct you a little bit on what Netanyahu said before he walked into that meeting. We do not want to occupy, we do not want to govern Gaza, Gaza City, none of it. We want to take control so that we can achieve those three goals and transition it to a civilian governance immediately. And this is, again, if somebody wants to help, one, report factually what's happening. Over 500 aid trucks went into Gaza on top of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The airdrops are happening. It actually is flooding the humanitarian aid. And you're right, Netanyahu said, like Rafah, for this, it won't start until we've set the condition to move those people out of harm's way, which is step one for any military operation, and get them to where they can get aid faster, medical, electricity. He even said sewage, all of that while you move the IDF towards Gaza City, which they haven't touched once.
Listen, I wish I could report on a lot more things with confidence. I can't because I'm not there, and I don't have my people on the ground, so that I can get sourcing on things.
Chris,
John,
he said,
go ahead.
So Fox News pressed him on that, and Netanyahu said, absolutely, I've put out a policy that we have to start letting in. So I don't know if that means you, Chris, and News Nation, but I hope it does.
I haven't gotten the word. But I don't want to be there with the IDF. No disrespect. No disrespect. But the only troops that I'm going to travel with are American troops, and not because I think they're better than IDF troops, but I am an American. Okay, the bias is there. I am not Israeli. I do not want them shepherding me around. If it's not safe, it's not safe. That's on me. Brother Alkhatib, let me bring you in here. What is your concern about this, and what do you make of the notion that the fastest end here is for Hamas to surrender? Do you agree?
Well, I listened to your monologue, and I couldn't agree more that there needs to be more pressure on Hamas by politicians, by the pro-Palestine movement, And I've said that time and again. I've been on the record since day one of this horrendous war that began on October 7th. I think what's missing from this conversation is that why is the target of the military operation going after Gaza City, where I grew up, where my family's home was destroyed, where my family lost, my brother was in his house, in the family house when it was bombed, and he pushed his way out of the rubble. Why are we going after Gaza City, which was already largely conquered, and leaving the central camps, Deir el-Balah, Nusayrat, Khan Yunis, where Hamas has dominion over the population, over parts of the humanitarian aid, likely has the hostages there. This feels like a distraction. This feels like a nothing burger that allows Mr. Netanyahu to escalate the war without any clear, tangible, tactical, or operational gains or benefits. It is unlikely that Hamas retains any significant capability in northern Gaza, in Gaza City. And furthermore, I don't understand this idea that this is happening almost 2 years later. Why isn't the full conquest or conquering of Gaza in its entirety, why didn't that happen at the beginning of the war? Why did we do this silly north to south strategy that simply allowed Hamas to travel down south? And we ended up with killing Sinwar in Rafah. We got Deif, the head of the military wing, in Khan Yunis, and the other Deif in the south. So what's to prevent remnants of Hamas in Gaza City from actually just packing up and leaving with the million other people. This is going to create further humanitarian suffering that I fear is not only unnecessary, but leaves the unaddressed problem of Hamas in central Gaza.
John, give me a quick button and let me get going.
Sure. So during the last ceasefire, Hamas pushed 1 million civilians back into their homes into northern Gaza. Most of Gaza City was left untouched for the last, because of the concern for that's where the hostages were and the central camps, like he said, which are absolutely right. But they pushed those civilians to surround themselves in the human shield. So that's why step one, like you said, is to get the civilians out of harm's way. Go in and clear Hamas from areas that have not been touched once, gain the intelligence on the hostages. But he's right. But the IDF that went into Rafah and did that successful operation isn't the same IDF that went into Gaza City in November of 2023, when the United Nations said you can't move civilians out of their homes. And, Chris, all of this alleviated if Egypt would open its gates.
Brother Alkhatib, you are always welcome here to make the case of what's missing in the conversation. And you should always feel free to disagree with me, just like Spencer does. I bring you guys in for a reason. You know better, not just through lived experience, but through study and sources. And I'm sorry for what happened to your family. And I hope we don't see that completely revisited again. I do not have high hopes for what we're hearing right now. John Spencer, thank you. Brother Alkhatib.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk again soon. You know how to get me. All right, now, here's another one I don't like, and this is going to be really weird. Okay, this is weird. You ready for something weird? So the Trump administration is going after New York's Attorney General, okay, Letitia James. Letitia James launched an investigation. It was called Of My Brother. I didn't like it. I thought it was politically motivated. I also don't like this with what's happening to her. And everybody's saying karma's a bitch and this is what you get. I don't like any of that. This sounds like payback. Am I wrong? I know I'm not wrong to be fair about it. It doesn't matter what happened to my family. It's about what you want the standard to be. I have somebody who says, no, the president's doing the right thing. This is what she gets. Cuomo's wrong. Let's get after it right after this. Okay, it's time for me to defend the person who I believe wrongly went after my brother. President Trump has ordered his DOJ to open a grand jury investigation into New York Attorney General Letitia James. Why? Because she went after him, and he believes she abused her power and that it was about politics. Now, maybe, maybe not, but is this the right way to deal with it? Okay, and again, full transparency. She went after my brother. I still don't like the way this smells. Now, my guest says that's because I'm an idiot and I don't understand what needs to happen here for there to be accountability. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Let's have the conversation. All right? Conservative talk show host, friend of show, Ben Ferguson, joins me now to learn me. Good to have you.
Good to be here. All right, you're not an idiot, but I will say this. Your brother's not conservative. Donald Trump is not a liberal. We should both be angry if anyone goes after either of those individuals solely based on politics, which is exactly why it must stop. What terrifies me about James is the fact that when she was running, she said, he's going to know my name. I'm going to go after him. I'm going to look into everything he's ever touched in his life, and he's going to know who I am. She also said, give me money, and I will weaponize the Attorney General's office to go after a political opponent. Then she fundraised off of it in emails saying that if you give money to me, I will weaponize in my official capacity to make sure that Donald Trump goes to jail. Now, forget Trump for a second. The Lady Justice is supposed to be blind to politics. You should never prosecute somebody, whether it's your brother who's a liberal or Donald Trump who's a conservative, because you don't like them politically. And so what I think Donald Trump has now done is said, okay, this is a woman that clearly stated on the record that, number one, she said that Donald Trump is illegitimate. She said, if you elect me, I will go after him. And she fundraised off of it. That meets the criteria, Chris, for them looking at the investigation of her and saying, this is an abuse of power. You're not allowed to do that if you are an attorney general.
I think it meets the standard for political payback, to say that it was illegitimate, to say all the things that you just said. But a grand jury investigation, how is that not lawfare on its face?
If she didn't break a law and she did nothing wrong, then she has nothing to worry about, right? So,
brother,
it also
would
makes
you
it clear,
want to be put in front of a grand jury about anything? Do you know how easy it is in that system?
I go back to her. She put herself in the situation by saying, he will know my name, and saying that I'm going to whoop his ASS, and then sending out fundraising letters that I'm going to put Donald Trump in prison if you give me money. If that is not the definition of abuse of power in the Attorney General's office, then I don't know what is. And then my question, Chris, is this. What happens if these AGs around the country all just start running off of, I'm going to lock everyone up that disagrees with me if you elect me? You got to stop this at some point.
I get the goal. Okay. I hate it. I don't like any of these things. If I could go back, I mean, I hate even thinking about my life this way, but because you can't go back. You can't fix anything. You can only be different going forward. I'm just saying, I don't know where this ends. I agree with your goal. Okay. I agree with your goal. I'm just worried about grand juries for people that you don't like. I don't like what she did. I've been on record the whole time saying the cases in New York against Trump were weak and shouldn't have been brought.
So here's my question, though. Should a grand jury look at the case and look at what she stated publicly and decide if she abused her power by going after someone solely for political reasons, not because they broke a law? That is well within the means of the law. This is something that should be looked at. And by the way, I'd be saying the same damn thing, Chris, if it was a Republican AG that was running for office saying, I'm going to come after Cuomo, I'm going to come after Obama, I'm going to come after Hillary Clinton. That is not your job. And every American should know that an attorney general of any state in America is not going to come after you because of who you donated money to, who you voted for, if there's an R or a D or an independent by your name.
I agree that it's wrong. I just believe that every time we have people who went after them, we just continue the cycle. But I hear you. You've got cogent points.
I just want to be on the record. I defended your brother tonight more than you. Hell may be freezing over, my friend.
I know. I'm just getting old. All right, Ben Ferguson, thank you very much for joining me. Always appreciate it. You decide which one of these arguments makes more sense to you. Put it on social media. Ben's easy to find. You know I am. We'll be right back. Okay, so this surrogate story out of China. I want to bring in two people out of America, but these people are Chinese, okay? This is one of the craziest stories I've ever heard that got so little attention. You hear about what happened in California with this couple of Chinese descent? 38-year-old Sylvia Zhang, 65-year-old husband. They are accused of running a massive surrogacy scam out of their home. 21 kids, ages 2 to 13, were removed 3 weeks ago and are now in foster care. And we still don't know. First of all, I don't even know that we know where they are. But what are they up to? 17 of the kids are younger than 3 years old. Most were born using multiple gestational surrogates, meaning the surrogate had no genetic link to the embryo they were carrying. But whose embryos were they? Whose sperm was it? Like, what was going on here? The couple claimed to run a surrogacy agency, but they also were like, he was like buying all this land and stuff. Scammed surrogates into believing they wanted to have a child after failed rounds of IVF. They didn't tell the surrogates they were owners of the agency. This all unraveled back in May. Police suspected that a 2-month-old had been abused in the home. Surveillance footage showed a nanny shaking the baby. The nanny's on the run, too. The couple were arrested for neglect, but were released as cops continue to build a strong case against them. But where are they? Like, what happens? What if they go back to China? Are they allowed to go back to China? I don't even know. So I want to get some more information on this and understand, why it's not a bigger deal. All right? One of the attorneys involved, he represented 3 of the surrogates hired by the couple to have a baby, is Rijon Charne, okay? And I wanted to bring in somebody else, very special guest, Fasold, all right? She is a surrogate hired by the agency that is currently pregnant. She is pregnant right now, due in October. All right? So thank you both for being with me. Rijon, what is this about? What do you think's going on here?
Yeah, you know, I represented the 3 separate surrogates at different times. And when it started to unfold, one of the surrogates had called me to let me know that people who were not the intended parents had shown up to the hospital with a power of attorney requesting to take the child. Now, this doesn't happen in the surrogacy industry. I've been in this industry a really long time, and it was horrifying. So immediately, while I was working with the other 2 surrogates, and by the way, working with 2 to 3 surrogates is not necessarily strange or unheard of in this industry, because some people want triplets, some people want twins, right? And you can really only transfer 1 embryo at a time due to health reasons and all of that sort of stuff. And so, but when I heard this, I immediately contacted the FBI to let them know that something was significantly wrong, because this doesn't happen. And I contacted the other 2 surrogates who luckily were not pregnant, and I told them, you know, asked them if they wanted to terminate their contracts, and both of them, of course, agreed to do so. So there is a lot of information here that the FBI is going to have to get to the bottom of.
What do you think it is?
You know, Chris, I don't know. I'm hoping that it is just a family who wants to have a lot of children and wants to build an empire. And I hope that that's where it begins and ends. But I don't know.
Do we even know that they're their embryos, that they're their genetic material?
We don't know 100%. All based on my knowledge is that an egg donor was used and the intended father's sperm was used. But was it the same egg donor for all of them? I can't tell you. I have no idea from that perspective.
Alexa, how you feeling?
Not too bad. I mean, it's a lot's been going on, but yeah, I mean, I guess at this point we're as good as we can be.
So, what is your situation right now? I mean, you're healthy, the baby's healthy, but like, what's going to happen?
So that's actually, it's really hard to say. As far as we're understanding here, the agency that we were working with, Mark Surrogacy, currently being spoken about, and Sylvia as the owner and operator of Mark Surrogacy going under investigation. We actually, a lot of our communication and everything was done through the agency, because when we had initially started this journey, it was all supposed to be a pretty anonymous journey. My husband and I chose, and from the very start, we didn't want to build a relationship. We wanted minimal contact. It was just kind of personal preference from what we thought was going to protect us from building a relationship with the family. And now it's kind of turned its back, where it's almost turned around against us, because now, since the agency was our primary and only contact, and now that ownership is going through all of this, and then Mark Surrogacy completely terminated the business, it kind of left us in the blank, where we no longer have contact directly with the agency. We were advised not to respond if they try to reach out, just because they are no longer a business. And the parents from day one have not been, like, there's been no direct contact under the parents, like, without using the agency name in particular.
Have you ever been a surrogate before?
No, this was our first journey my husband and I were doing. We were trying to do this for a family that was just kind of in need. We were under the impression that we were working with a family who was struggling with infertility for their first child, and we were told that they were waiting quite a long time, and we had a lot of compassion there for a family who was not only struggling with fertility, but they were supposedly having trouble finding the right surrogate to carry for them, given that they wanted a super anonymous and low communication journey from, like, kind of the whole point. And when we heard that, we were just like, you know, we thought we were answering a prayer here that, again, seems to have turned around on us.
So, Alexa, just looking forward a little bit, if they're not in the picture, what do you want to happen when you give birth?
So as far as we are aware, like, we don't know exactly what could happen. My husband and I, we have never looked at ourselves as being in a place to wanting to necessarily hold on to the baby, but we do want to make sure he's safe. Whether that happens to be with us or another family, whether that's in foster care and going through a system, we want to be involved as much as we can, because from day one, we felt like this baby was placed in our care, and we feel obligated to make sure.
Look, you've done nothing but the right thing. We're a call away if we can help, and we'll stay in the loop. Rijon, thank you very much. Same offer to you. If we can help, we're here. Thank you both. And Alexa, you know how to get us. We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Leland Vittert starts right now. I was just getting. What the hell?
We could not let you go away without saying happy birthday.
You all quit?
Chris!
Oh no! Wait a minute. Is that Mr. G back there?
Mr. G.
Oh,
wait,
now we're talking.
Corinne, where are you? Corinne, where's Corinne? Ask Corinne to come on out. Corinne, where are you? Okay. Oh my God.
She's like out in the hallway. I think she dropped the cake.
Oh no! You have no idea how much that cake costs.
This lady's about to fall down.
That cake better get in there.
Wow.
Yo! Wait,
hold on. Can you see? All right. 55, double nickel. I want to say, this is the best production value we've ever had on our show. He's shooting live right now.
Yes.
Nick is shooting live.
Yeah.
This actually all worked.
Yes.
Look at Kung Fu Panda over there in the corner.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Chris.
Wow. Blue chocolate. Can I eat this, or is it wax?
No, it's chocolate. It's all edible.
Oh, it's not bad. It's not bad. Matches my eyes. Where's Leland?
Leland, come on in and join us. Come on and bring Leland in. We want to say, there he is.
There.
Leland, you see my calves?
I actually, unfortunately, I can't see anything right now. I can just see the
You're not missing anything.
But you know what? I'm going to save both your ratings and mine by not singing.
Right, well, I'm glad you're not singing. I'm 55. I'm the ghost of Christmas future. Just watch what I do and do the opposite.
We love you, Chris. Happy birthday. Have a great show. We love you.
I love you all very much. Mr. G, thank you very much. You're a legend.
A legend.
Thank you for being there.
Bye.
Happy birthday, Chris.
Leland,
friends.
Have a great weekend, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Have a great trip.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.